So how exactly do you enter a beer competition, and what do you have to do to win it? We'll stick around to find out. So first of all, I want to answer the question of why actually compete in a beer competition. Well, for most of us, we spend our career as a brewer actually just making beer for ourselves and maybe our friends and family. And although they generally enjoy what we make and they always tell us that it's good, we can't really use that feedback to improve our brewing skills or in fact improve the beer that we're making. If you enter a beer competition, although the judges aren't always professionals, they do give you good and useful feedback, and it's often constructive criticism that you can use to actually improve your beer and come back and perhaps win that competition in the future. So what's the best way to get started in brewing for beer competitions? Well, in fact, I would recommend going to your local homebrew club. You might find the information for this online or Facebook or something like that, and actually enter one of their local beer competitions. Often it's just a question of entering a beer that others will drink and just give a little bit of feedback. There may not be any prizes to win, but you can use this as a stepping stone towards a real competition where you could actually win a ribbon or perhaps a cash prize. So if you're looking to enter a beer competition, you can often find a lot of information either at your local brew shop, through a local home brewing club, or even just by searching online. If you're in the USA, then a great website is BJCP.org. So this is the Beer Judge Certified Program, and they actually are the ones that give the training for judges that actually judge the beer in the American and North American, I should say, competitions. So this is a great source to find local and international competitions that you can enter. So in the actual competition, the judges will judge your beer based on several different criteria, including its aroma, its appearance, the flavour of the beer, as well as the mouthfeel, and also any off flavours that it happens to have. There is also another category which is the overall impression of the beer that the judge has. Now flavour actually accounts for about 50% of all points, and there's 50 points up for grabs. So I just want to talk about a few little extra things that you need to bear in mind, because if you don't follow the guidelines, you could actually be disqualified. And it's little things like not using the right size beer bottle. Also using bottle caps that have a motif or a picture. So you should only use blank bottle caps as pointed out in the guidelines. It's also things like not filling the beer up to the right level in the bottle, and also not using the correct labels as laid out in the guidelines. So make sure you read those guidelines very carefully so you don't get disqualified for things like this. So as I said before, you can win up to 50 points, and depending on how many points you're awarded, you'll be put into a different category. This ranges from problematic, where you can get 0 to 13 points, fair, which is 14 to 20 points, good, 21 to 29 points, very good, 30 to 37 points, excellent, which is 38 to 44 points, and outstanding, 45 to 50 points. So in terms of the actual beer that you can enter into the competition, well, this might change from competition to competition, so make sure you read the guidelines. But as a general rule, there are 26 group categories, and within each of those categories there's a number of subcategories. So this can really determine the beer that you want to brew, because depending on the group, you could do better with one type of beer than another one, depending on the level of competition within that subcategory. Another question that people often ask is, do I have to reveal my recipe when I enter a beer competition? And the answer is yes. You have to give all the information about your brewing process in order to enter the competition and not be disqualified. That includes things like the yield of that particular batch, say 5 gallons. Also, you need to give details about your mashing temperature, your mashing process, the boiling time, and also the grain, hops bill, as well as the type of yeast you use and whether you used a yeast starter, for example, and also details on carbonation, as well as a number of other things that you have to include in the actual recipe declaration part of the form. So entering a beer competition is fairly inexpensive. Entry fees range between about $5 to $30 US, so it's not going to cost you a great deal to actually enter it. However, you might need to consider how much it will cost you to actually ship your beer to the location. Many of these beer competitions aren't actually public events. They take place in a garage or say an office space somewhere. So the candidates aren't actually present at some of the competitions. So you need to factor this in both in your costs and also in the time it will take to ship those sample beers to the competition. Remember that most deadlines are 5 to 7 days before the competition takes place, before the judging takes place, I should say. So make sure that you don't leave it to the last minute. If something arrives on judging day, it will not be judged. So now that you have a better idea of what you actually have to do to enter a beer competition, how do you go about winning that competition? Well, let me give you a few tips just to help you on your way. First of all, the biggest tip is sanitation. Now, with any type of brewing, sanitation is key. As a brewer, we're always afraid of that bacterial infection because it's going to ruin the taste of our beer, and especially when it's being judged, because they do zero on any type of off flavour, and it's really crucial that you sanitize everything that you use. So this should be the highest priority that you have. My second tip would be carbonation. So as you're going to be sending this as a beer sample, you're most likely to be bottle conditioning your beer. So it's really crucial that you get the priming sugars to the right level so you can ensure the best carbonation. I've spoken to a lot of judges, and one thing they always talk about is less than perfect carbonation in the beer samples that they're given. You also have to consider the fact that your beer might be opened and not sampled, not judged for maybe 5 minutes to an hour. You can't really tell. That's something you can't control. So if your beer loses carbonation very quickly, that's going to be marked against you. And the last tip is about getting your beer to the competition. So it's not only important to get it there on time, it's also worth considering when it arrives. So it would be a good idea to get it there nice and early, but you've got to consider how is the person going to be storing that beer before it's judged. If they leave it in a hot garage, it's not really going to do your beer any favours. So the experts try and time their shipping so it arrives on the last day of the deadline or within a day or so. That gives you the best chance of your beer not being affected by poor storing conditions at the actual judging place. So those would be my top 3 tips for winning any beer competition. If you're interested in finding out another 21 tips, then head over to my website at beercreation.com/champion. So I hope that you found this video really useful. If you did, consider sharing it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also hit that notification bell so you can get notified anytime that I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions or anything else you'd like me to talk about, leave a comment down below and I will get back to you. Okay, thanks for watching. See you again next time.